friends, I'm back. After a small hiatus, I've been going through a lot of crazy, busy stuff right now. But today I'm doing the evolution of my bookshelf tag. Emmmabooks created it, so I'm gonna do it today. So, let's get started with the first question is oldest book on my shelf. I have The World's Best Fairy Tales, and this book was published in 1967. This book belonged to my mother before I got it, and she used to read me stories from it. It is a Reader's Digest anthology of multiple stories in it. It's even got illustrations as well. And I just remember staying up and reading it with my mom. And also it's got some gold edging over here, if you could see. Gold edging, but it's kind of worn off over the years. But this book means a lot. It's one of the oldest ones I own. So, The World's Best Fairy Tales. Then, a book that I read in 2013, and that is Divergent. Loved this series when it came out. It was great, except the last book I didn't like so much. I did read it with a friend in college, and the publication was in 2011, but yeah, I picked this up in 2013, I think. Yeah, so Divergent. Book that I read in 2014, I couldn't be satisfied when it came to fan fiction, so my friend Maggie, who I'm no longer friends with, bought me this book, Running Wild, which has 3 stories put in together with raunchy sex scenes and stuff. I have to give it a reread because I kind of forgot some of this stuff, but this is a book that I read in 2014. Then, book I read in 2015 was The Martian. Everybody was going nuts over this book. It was becoming a movie with Matt Damon, and I still have yet to see the movie because I'm kind of terrified how the movie would do justice to the book. But yeah, I don't know yet. But yeah, I was reading this book and I just was hysterically laughing the whole entire time, and I really loved it. Then the book that I read in 2016 was Me Before You. This was becoming a major motion picture with Emilia Clarke, who played Khaleesi in Game of Thrones. I remember reading this book before my mom read it, and then we went to see the movie together. It was a great time picking out a book for my mom and I to both read. So, Me Before You. Then a book I read in 2017 is, my love of cooking and all that. So I was watching a YouTube cook person or baking person. So I picked up their Nerdy Dummies cookbook, and I've cooked a few recipes from this. It's really fun. Baking's not really my strong suit, like the decorating aspect of it, but baking itself I'm really good at. But I loved these Nerdy Dummy recipes, and my favorite one, I'll show you really quick, that I've cooked before is, I don't know if it's in here. It might not be. It's the rupees from Legend of Zelda. Whatever. But yeah, a lot of fun recipes from this book. Then, in 2018, one of my favorite books last year was A Life in Parts by the man who plays Walter White himself, Bryan Cranston. I absolutely love this man. He's one of my favorite actors. I really loved seeing the glimpse into his life, and I listened to it in the audiobook, and I really, really enjoyed it. And then I had to pick up a copy for myself, so I guess that couldn't count for a later question, but yeah, if you haven't already, pick up A Life in Parts. He narrates his own audiobook, and it is amazing. So, A Life in Parts. Then, a book that I read in 2019. I read this twice or three times, and it's Daisy Jones and the Six. And I also got it signed because I went to an event in the city. That's also where I met Emma for the first time, which is really cool. And I also, of course, met Taylor Jenkins Reid. She's a real sweetheart. I'll post a photo up here. But this book is amazing. It gives Daisy Jones gives me Janis Joplin vibes, who I love her music very much, and a lot of fun memories associated with this book. So there's that. Then the next question is a book that I've read multiple times, and I'm going to answer it with a series that I've read multiple times, and I have read Harry Potter multiple times. I am in the 28 reread mark, I believe. I've lost count. The series is amazing. I always wear my Deathly Hallows necklace now, even though it's kind of like tainted from or tarnished from being wet and stuff, but I still wear it all the time. Harry Potter has so many great memories, and I just take it in stride that I'm a Hufflepuff and I don't care at all what anybody says. So, need I say more about Harry Potter? I've read the series as they've been published. They've been by my side since childhood and now until my adulthood, and when I eventually have children, they're going to be reading some Harry Potter too. So, a book that I've waited over a year to be published, and it's just a little comic collection of multiple different artists, but I found out that this book was coming out, which is Team Avatar Tales, and I just had to have it. I love me some Zuko and Company, or Aang and Company. Beautiful illustrations, of course. And this is just great. I picked up this book while I went to the city to meet Dante Bosco, and it was absolutely amazing. I will show you a video or a picture in the next coming sequences because it goes along with that. But I picked this up from Midtown Comics, which I'll show you really quickly. I still have the book, the bag left. So Midtown Comics. I went into the city with my best friend Julian, and I picked up Team Avatar Tales in this. So yeah, I waited over a year for this to be published, and I was so excited, and I'm gonna reread it very soon. Then books that I read on vacation, and I brought both of these books with me on vacation because I was in the middle of the series reading it, and I was like, I'm halfway through one book, so I might as well bring the next one because this was up to date how many books that they had out, and I had to wait for the other ones. But I normally cannot read in the car when it's driving somewhere, especially long distances. So I was quite impressed I was able to read both of these, which is Avalon Web of Magic Spellsinger by Rachel Roberts and Avalon Web of Magic Trial by Fire. I read these when I was very young. I'd say, oh yes, this one was published in 2002, and this was published in 2002 as well. So I was 11 years old when the series came out. So it's a young, not a young adult series. It's a middle grade series. I love it with all my heart. It's about these three girls right here. Uh, Emily, Kara, and Adrian. I just say pick them up. The covers have changed and went through many different cover changes, but nothing like being on a family trip with your family and being stuck in the car for 18 hours or so. So reading these really meant a lot to me. Then a book that I got from someplace special. I normally don't make a lot of trips into the city, except this year was the exception. I've been to 3 book signings, but my most recent one was I went into the city, into Barnes & Noble in Union Square, and I got From Rufio to Zuko by Dante Bosco. It is his memoir about how he got into acting and everything like that. And it is signed for me right here by him. And I just love how he wrote honor in there. And I spent the whole day in the city with my best friend Julian. We went to multiple bookstores. We went all over the place. But this book means the world to me. And I've reread it twice now. And look at that. That's just cool, right? So, From Rufio to Zuko. Then a book that made me cry. I'm going to go with After by Amy Effa, which is basically, the story is about how a young girl gets put into jail after she refuses to acknowledge that she was pregnant, and she put her baby into a dumpster to try to get rid of said baby. And yeah, it's just basically how her process of going through her trial went and the outcome and stuff. And I was just tearing up when I read this. Very powerful book. So yeah. Then the next book is a book that I read in one sitting, and that is Fallout by Ellen Hopkins. And it is the third and maybe final installment in the Crank series. I waited a while for this one to come out. A super long time. I think like a couple years. Because Glass, where the events happened, left you wondering what was going to happen next. It was never a thing that we were going to get a sequel or like a part of the trilogy to complete the whole sequence of what happened to Christina. But it did. This book follows the story of her children in the future after the events of her drug addiction. And it just brings everything close to home. Well, not close to home, but it brings everything all around. And I got this book for Christmas of hold on a sec. I'll check the publication year. Of 2010. So I got this book in 2012, Christmas of 2012. It was a little while before I got it, I think. So I was basically skipping out on family activities, or while we were waiting until we were going to have family activities, to read this book. And I just sat in my living room in my pajamas and I read the whole thing in one sitting. And I was so engrossed and I teared up, and it was a very nice conclusion to the story. So, Fallout, and if you haven't read the series yet, I strongly recommend it. It looks a little bulky, but trust me, it's not. It is a novel in verse, so I'll just show you really quick. But pick it up if you haven't. It is one of my absolute favorite series. And Fallout. Next book on my list is a book that I got for a gift. I would have done Fallout, but I wanted to do a little bit more of a detailed story with that. But I got this for Christmas one year also, and that is the Magician's Trilogy by Lev Grossman. And I got this for Christmas also. I recently was getting into the sci-fi series, and it's just when the first couple episodes started coming out that I watched it, and I was like, I need to complete the series before the series gets completed on TV. So I read all these books in one sitting. The audiobooks are phenomenal. And I love the packaging. You got like the keys and the bees on there and everything, or the bugs. If you don't understand what I'm talking about, it's part of the series if you watch it to understand. So, yeah. Hold on a second while I just put that back in there. So yes, The Magician's Trilogy, and it is one of my most favorite box sets. This is a series that I highly recommend if you like Harry Potter and magic. It's basically like an adult version of Harry Potter almost. I'm throwing it lightly out there though, because everybody's college age, but it's more dark than Harry Potter. Let me just say that. So, The Magician's Trilogy. Then, after The Magicians, a book that I read before I owned, and that is the Diviners series. I read the Diviners and Lair of Dreams before I picked up the novels, and then I picked up Before the Devil Breaks You from the library, and I have my own copy that's sitting on the shelf. I was too lazy to get it off the shelf, but I have it right here from my library, and I read these first two books before I bought them for myself, and this book series is amazing. I can't recommend it enough. I fell in love with the story, and I have to reread these very soon. Then the next book is a book that I lent to someone else. This is actually a second copy of Identical, because my best friend Shani, I'll post the photo up here, who I adore. We've been friends since middle school. Over the summer, back when we were probably in high school, early high school, I lent her my copy of Identical to read, because her and I have the same love or the same genres of books that we love. So I lent it to her, and I went to go pick it back up, and her cat shredded my book to pieces in the pages. It was beyond repair. Like, if it was shredded just like one or two pages that I could tape up, it would have been fine. It was completely shredded to bits. Her cat Milky destroyed the crap out of my book, and she felt super guilty that I lent her one of my favorite books at the time by one of my favorite authors. Granted, this is not in the same series as Fallout and such, but she felt guilty, and she bought me a new copy, and I love her for that, because she felt responsible even though it wasn't her fault. It was her cat's fault, but yes, she picked me up another one. And I just love how shiny it is, don't mind me. But yeah, I love this book. So, there's that book. A damaged book. If I kept my copy of Identical from Milky when he destroyed it, that would have worked out for this, but it wouldn't have, because I wouldn't be able to use it for this question. So, for a damaged book, I'm going to go with one of the oldest books that I own that is very near and dear to my heart, and it is Treasury of Christmas Tales. If you look right here, the edging is completely ripped apart, and it's being held together by tape, if you see. And I will read you the blurb in the beginning of the book here. To Courtney, Merry Christmas, love, Aunt Teresa. This is from my great Aunt Teresa, and it was published in 1994. That means I was 3 years old when this book came out. And every year, like clockwork, while Santa was around and stuff, and we kept our Christmas decorations in Tupperwares, or big boxes of tubs for storage. We would bring out this book, and my mom and I would read it by our wood burning stove. So it became a very near and dear tradition in my family. And let me just tell you, I just love these illustrations to this day. I'll just show you some, or show you one. This one is from A Christmas Carol. Yes, this image is from A Christmas Carol, which is one of my favorite Christmas stories, but with every page or so, there's always an illustration, which is, this artwork is beautiful. But as I hit myself in the nose, yeah. But this book is extremely damaged, but it's gotten a lot of use and a lot of love and a lot of years out of it. And I plan on sharing this beautiful book with my family when I have children. And then a book that I got on sale. I actually just picked up this box series, which is the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy, today at a discounted shop in my town. Oops, as I drop it. This box set was originally $40 when it was all said and done with tax, but I picked it up today for $12.99, and it cost me less than $15 for all 3 books. I've read these books before. I really, really loved them, and I want to do a reread of it very, very soon. So I picked up the series for myself, and I couldn't pass up $15 for these 3 books. So, a book that I read was Someone, and that is Reaper at the Gates. I, over the course of this year, became friends with a person named Misha on Instagram. She liked one of my haul photos, so her and I started talking. We decided to do a buddy read together. And I was nearing my start of the read for Reaper at the Gates, and she was in the same process as well. So we decided to read this book together, and it was one of the most enjoyable experiences, reading with somebody that you met online, which is really fun. And I love Bookstagram by making friends that way. Her and I text each other, which is really fun. So she's one of the first bookish friends that I made on Instagram. And we read Reaper at the Gates, and it was phenomenal. And I need book 4. Then a book that is associated with the San. I'm gonna go with, hold on a second, I had to grab my books. I'm gonna go with Twilight, and I'm gonna associate it with the San. What is it from? It's from the movie. Fudge. I can't remember it right now, and I'm so mad. I'm forgetting the Linkin Park song. Hold on, give me a moment. Hello, future me. I just researched what song it is while editing, and it is Leave Out All the Rest by Linkin Park. And if you know, I am a huge fan of Linkin Park. I've seen them in concert twice. I also have a tattoo dedicated to Chester Bennington. Let me just show you my tattoo really quick. Can you see that? I don't think so. There's my tattoo. So, when I think of Twilight, or at least when everybody thinks of Twilight, they think of supermassive black hole. When they think of Twilight. When I think of Twilight, I think of Leave Out All the Rest, which is on the soundtrack for the movie, and when the end credits play. my boys in Lincoln Park. I think of synonymously with Twilight. I can't help it. All the other songs I liked, but not as much as I loved the Linkin Park song, but yes. Leave out all the rest for Twilight. So, next on my list is a book that I associate with a food. And the book that I associate with food, is Smoke. Just a little disclaimer, I know I have 3 books by Ellen Hopkins on this list, but Ellen Hopkins is and still will be one of my favorite authors. I unapologetically love this woman very much, but little backstory. I was going to my friend Maggie's birthday party, and we were going to hibachi, so I had nothing to do for about an hour or two before we actually started our festivities. So me being the person that loves to be on time and stuff like that, I recently had just purchased Smoke, and I was strongly anticipating this book because it is it's the next installment in the series. It's the sequel to Burned, I mean. I couldn't get that out, but I loved Burned. I read it in one sitting. I should have mentioned that in one of the books I mentioned in one sitting, but I didn't. Anyways, I had just gotten my hands on this puppy, and I wanted to read it. So, what I normally do is, if I have somewhere to be, but I don't have have a lot of free time, I drive to my destination. And at the time, I had my first vehicle, which is my Ford F-150, which I loved, but a bum cylinder happened. Anyways, so I drove in my truck, and I had an hour or two to kill, and I just took out my book and I started reading, and I almost finished this in one sitting, because, like I said, it's a very hefty book, but written in verse. So, synonymously, I was super hungry for hibachi and sushi and all that stuff. So, I always associate hibachi with Smoke. Can't help it. And, a book that I got years ago, but I won't buy now, is I got myself Furyborn by Claire Legrand. I bought this back a couple years ago when it was super hyped around BookTube, when I was a viewer of BookTube and didn't make content. Yeah, I guess you could count 2018 as years ago, even though it's a year ago. I won't buy it now. But yeah, I DNF'd this book. I thought I was gonna love it. The plot summary gave me Avatar: Last Airbenders vibes because of different elements being used. But as I read it more, I didn't enjoy it. So, a book that I read during a specific time. A book I read during a specific time is My Sister's Keeper by Jodi Picoult. And I read this book in 2019. Let me just see really quick. It was published in 2004, but I read it when the movie was coming out in 2009. That's when I was a senior in high school, and this was one of the last books that my class in English read together. And it was a moment in time that this book is just synonymous or linked together with my thoughts of senior year. This book was very, not controversial, but very thought-provoking. And since then, I've read many of her books, and Jodi Picoult is one of my favorite authors, maybe? I don't know. And then on my list, a book that I used to like, but I don't like now. I'm gonna go with Ready Player One on this one. Like, I loved it. I still somewhat adore it, but it's not as high on my list as it used to be. Due to the movie and the hype. But yeah, Ready Player One. Then the newest book on my shelf. Well, I have a couple new books on my shelf because due to going to the city, other than the 3 other novels, which are from the Saga series that I read, when I went into the city, I got those. But I also picked up The Beautiful, The Toll, Supernova, which I am 49 pages in, and I'm loving it so far. And I also picked up Cursed. I picked up these books while I was in the city. And yes, I love these books. They are great. I can't wait to get to them. They are my newest ones, other than the box set that I picked up today. So that is my conclusion to the evolution of my bookshelf. I hope you enjoyed, and have a good night. Bye-bye.